And it's a system which has seen, as I know people like Anne and Breda know, an enormous surge in demand right across the country under almost every heading of social welfare for the period of the crisis, and on a continuing basis there is just an enormous increase in demand. And the people working here in the INOU would be very conscious of the fact that right around the country and in the different regional headquarters where claims are processed, the department has been working flat out to bring in improved computer systems. The changes to those computer systems are demanding, because we have to be sure that while we change the systems, per people, those 1.4 million people who are receiving the payments on a weekly basis, that they actually do receive their payments on time, and that they have confidence that that's so. So this is, I suppose, one of the most difficult and challenging things. Croke Park is in the news, but in terms of the Department of Social Protection, the department has probably seen more change in the last year and a half than in the rest of its entire existence. There have been lots of changes since the crisis, but the changes have accelerated in the last year and a half. We have now the Community Welfare Service, 1,000 people who are working there, transferred under Croke Park from the HSE into the department, and we have about 700 people who transferred from FOSS into the department. And we are now, I have to say, ready to launch in the next couple of weeks the formal launch of the National Employment and Entitlement Service, the Pathways to Work. And that really is important because people may have seen the IMF country report and the more recent comments in recent days. And the buzzword from the IMF is activation. And that means that individuals who go into the social welfare office, who go into a Pathways office, have to, over a period of time, meet on a one-to-one basis with staff from the department, and those staff are now drawn from the traditional staff of the department, the people who have come from the Community Welfare Service, and the people who have come from FOSS. And they really have to be helped in terms of an individual plan to get back to work, and if in the current jobs climate they can't find work immediately, that they're helped to get education, training and placement. And you know, this year alone the Department of Social Protection will spend over 200 million on back to work, back to education initiatives. So we're spending just over $1 billion this year, just under $1 billion this year, on initiatives to support people into work, education and training. And I very much value the INO and the community organisations around the country which participate in those initiatives, whether it's a CE scheme, whether it's guiding and helping somebody to get back into an educational course. But we do have to ensure that if people, for instance, commit to doing an educational course, for example, that they really do attend, and that it's a course that will be valuable to them and will allow them and help them to get closer to the jobs market and ultimately to find work. So in terms of advising people about how to get back to work, again, I think the advice that people will find in this book is incredibly valuable. And I want to congratulate the INOU on it, and to thank them for the cooperation with my department, and I myself am very happy to continue to see the limited, large but limited, very limited funds of the department support the very important work of the INOU. Since we met on the launch of the last book, we now have about a year's experience of the Job Bridge scheme and of TUS. And what's interesting is that, you know, despite these being the starter if you like, options for some people. We now have, between the two of them, almost 10,000 people who have taken up options under JobBridge. We've in fact had about 9,500 people go through JobBridge, and at any one time there are just under 5,000 people on it. And with TUS, we have built up now to just under 5,000 people on TUS. And again, that is in addition to being able to retain 22,000 places in terms of community employment, including the employment of about 1,400 supervisors. And I'm hoping that my colleagues in government will support initiatives to offer people even more opportunities in terms of social employment in their local community or in organisations that are focused on a social contribution. This year, the book contains very detailed advice on programmes like JobBridge, and I think that that's very helpful because there are a lot of younger people who, having finished courses in the current market, if they have a network of contacts, they can often get some work and some work experience. But young people who leave courses, who don't have contacts, may not be able to get little, if anything, at all in the current climate. And JobBridge, in fact, has given particularly people in that situation an opportunity to get work experience that might otherwise have been closed to them because they didn't have a contact network. Anne was talking there about the web. I'm glad to say now that we are at the moment, we've just, I think, completed tenders and so on in relation to redesigning the department's website. Because with the FOSS people coming in, one of the gaps, and I'm sure you yourselves and the local organisations here will be conscious of, is how to build up links with local employers, so that if local employers have a vacancy, it might be just one person, it might be 3 people, that people locally or in a radius of 20 or 30 miles who are on the live register, that they have a shot at filling those vacancies. And at the moment, one of the things, probably because it wasn't really required at the height of the boom, is that gap between employers, the department, and information going out to local people. So we'll be redesigning the site, and we'll be putting a lot of focus on saying, and I've heard, you've heard, I hear it personally, employers saying, I was looking for a couple of people, but I couldn't get anybody because they were worried about compromising their social welfare. We still have a lot of employers and individuals who believe that if you take a job, you lose your medical card. Well, you know, books like this say that ain't so, but getting people to understand that and removing those kind of barriers that exist to people and to employers feeling, oh, if people are on social welfare, they mightn't be that keen on taking employment. I think almost everybody that I've met is very anxious, if they can, to get back to work. And that's a key part of the Pathway service. And interestingly, under Croke Park, with the huge transfer of staff into the department, we have had issues. And I want to say as Minister that under the Croke Park Agreement, we have been able to resolve those issues through industrial relations discussions, but Croke Park has essentially provided a platform to vindicate, provide for, and allow change to happen. Now, I suppose we might try and have that change happen more quickly for everybody's sake, but it has worked. And I occasionally hear people saying they can't do this, they can't do that, and Croke Park doesn't allow it to happen. You know, managers, individual public servants, individual organisations and departments have to work with Croke Park to get the value out of it. And certainly in social protection, we can show an enormous range of change, which is still a process, but which has been hugely enabled by the availability of Croke Park. So in congratulating you on the service, And I must say the information that's available online as well is really helpful. I should say as well to people in the room here that the citizens' information have completely revamped for all of the changes in insolvency legislation in relation to personal insolvency and personal debt. Their website, keepingyourhome.ie, and again that's a very valuable source of information, particularly for people who on the one hand have difficulties with employment and on the other hand consequently may well have difficulties with a mortgage that they entered into and committed to when times were better. So thank you very much. Over the next year we'll be rolling out the services in relation to activation in a number of locations right around the country. We'll be doing the formal launches in the next couple of weeks of the first 4 pilot offices where it's underway at the moment, in Sligo, in King's Inn Street, not too far from here, in Arklow and in Tala. And we have earmarked a whole series of other offices where it's already underway, and some people will already be familiar with the extensive installation now of facilities in relation to signing, in terms of computer-based signing. So there's a lot of change happening in terms of the IT in the department, and hopefully that again will provide a better service for the clients of the department and for the people and the families that organisations such as the INOU assist. Thank you very much.